let's go ahead and bring in Representative Brenda Carter. She is with Michigan State Representative for District 29. We had you on before, right after the election. We made it through the election.
Yes.
But I think one of the big problems so many people are facing, COVID-19 is not going away.
No.
We're still in the midst of this crisis. And while a vaccine is on the horizon and it's bringing great hope to our communities, the economic fallout is still happening.
Absolutely.
And if we could talk a little bit about some of the things going on in the state of Michigan, because on the federal level, they're still trying to deal with coming up with some type of financial support for our businesses as well as the individuals directly impacted. Here in the state of Michigan, for the people, the business owners, the restaurants, the employees that don't have that safety net of the unemployment with the federal, additional federal money that we saw during the first pandemic or the first shutdown, what do you want them to know? If they're trying to pay their light bill and their rent, but the place that they work down is shut down, what do you want them to know as their elected leader?
First of all, I want them to know that we are very aware of what's going on economically, especially in District 29. Many of the business owners in my district I'm familiar with, I'm friends with. I live day to day with what they're going through. One in particular is a business in Pontiac called Duckett's, who has contributed so much to the community. But at this time, because of the edict that's in Lansing from MDHHS, which is really focusing on how bad this pandemic has gotten, and it's a between a rock and a hard place, and we're doing everything we can. We're looking at it on the appropriation side, but a lot is contingent on what's happening, like you mentioned, in Washington. Hopefully we can get another stimulus package out there to help our businesses. We realize that our businesses are the economic drivers of our local communities, and without them, many of our communities as a whole will fail. So I just want our small businesses to know that we understand what they're going through. This is a situation that is out of our control, and we're doing everything we can to mitigate some of these punitive circumstances they're having.
It's one thing for you to understand, and a lot of them will say that they empathize with you as well as being their elected leader, and you understand, but that's still not going to keep their business afloat, or it's still not going to get their rent paid. For those that think that our elected leaders on the state level as well as on the federal level aren't doing enough, what do you say to them?
I say to them that we are going to do everything we can, okay? And I know that's hard to really understand where we are, okay, as legislators, state legislators. But I am sure that Governor Whitmer is understanding the pressure that's putting in, that our local businesses are under, and that we are doing everything we can while trying to keep our communities as a whole safe. That's the big thing. We're looking at these metrics and we're seeing rises all over the state, not only in our urban areas, but in our rural areas. And we have to gauge these things and realize that if we don't do something about the spread of COVID-19, it can only make our economic situations worse. So we are meeting, we are doing everything we can. We're looking at all the metrics. We're talking to our congressional legislators and saying, hey, can we get some things out here to help our communities, knowing that they know and we know that the crisis that we're in right now. But what I say to them is we're doing everything we can.
Hope is on the horizon. We are hearing that we could start to see a vaccine here across the country, including here in the state of Michigan, before the end of December, which will be great news. What discussions are you having with other elected leaders about the process to try to roll out the vaccine? Because there are so many logistics involved in the vaccine.
Well, first of all, we're in alignment with the process that's coming out of Washington, whereas we're looking at our frontline people first. Okay, our medical field, our police, anybody that's on the front line that's dealing with COVID-19. And right behind that, we're looking at our nursing facilities where there's a large outbreak, as well as our prisons. Okay, we're looking at the area that's being impacted adversely by the disease. But there is a process in place. I've been in meetings where they have looked at the hierarchy of who would get the vaccine first. And also, we're looking at maybe beginning to administer this vaccine as early as the end of next week, which would be great. So yeah, we are aggressively looking at this right now, but we are looking at our frontline people first. We're looking at our seniors in the nursing home, our seniors who have comorbidities, a lot of things, and we're addressing those areas first. But what I want everyone to know is that we are taking a very aggressive, not assertive, but aggressive look at administering these vaccines.
Well, and I know there are a lot of logistics involved in trying to administer the vaccine, especially because of the storage issue. It has to be kept in very cold temperatures, but also it's a two-step process.
Yes.
So when you're looking at that, are you worried and do you wonder about how this is going to happen within some of the inner city communities? And how long are we going to look at trying to get this vaccine to our urban areas, and not only the first step, but the second shot as well?
Okay, as far as our urban areas are and our rural areas, I must stress that this is no longer a specific to our urban areas. It's all over the state. We're looking at once again, dealing with our frontliners first, okay? But as far as the storage issues, I'm glad that Pfizer has a vaccine and Moderna has a vaccine. One is sub-zero temperatures. The other ones you can refrigerate right there on your facilities. So I think the bigger issue is not the storage issue, Roddy. I think the biggest issue is convincing our communities that this vaccine is safe in the first place, because it's not going to do any good to have vaccines if nobody wants to take them.
And that is a great point. And so are there any discussions in Lansing about a public service announcement to get this out and to try to convince people to get the vaccine?
Well, I haven't been privy to that conversation, but I'm sure it is, because I think we realize all over the world right now that we have a vaccine that we haven't had the long-term test on. It's a lot of it's in the emergency use right now to try to mitigate the spread of COVID. But I am sure, and this is something I can check on, because that is a good point. Are we getting something out there like when COVID first appeared? We had all kind of placards and all kind of mailings and everything out there to get the community informed about this disease and what we need to do to keep it under control. So I'm sure right now, and I will check with MDHHS to see whether or not we have some information that we can share with our communities. You mentioned our urban areas. I'm concerned with the information. I've heard feedback from some of my communities about their hesitance with this vaccine, but also in our rural areas where it's spreading like wildfire, we got to make sure that everybody understands that as of right now, the tests have shown that this vaccine is safe. And we are once again weighing against the fact that, we have a vaccine, a pandemic that's out of control.
Yeah, Representative Brenda Carter with us here on the Oakland County MegaCast. She is with Michigan's 29th District, which covers our area here in Pontiac and the greater West Bloomfield area as well. And with that, I wonder, we're going into the holidays. There was a warning and a recommendation, don't travel, do not get together in groups, have a small holiday Thanksgiving. Obviously, people did, well, if any indication by the number of people that actually went to the airports and traveled over the Thanksgiving holiday is any indication, people were not paying attention. As an elected leader, it's obvious that COVID-19 pandemic fatigue has set in. What do you want your constituents to know about this virus as we head into the winter months and the numbers are worse than what they were in the spring?
Well, I would like my constituents to know that this is a serious and deadly disease. Right now, we're sacrificing a lot. You know, this is the time of year, it's a time of year where we reach out to our families for warmth and comfort, and we do our philanthropic things like we love distributing turkeys and gifts to kids. But we have to do that safely. I think Governor Gretchen Whitmer said it best. We're going to sacrifice this year, sacrifice this closeness with our family next year so we can be with our families, this year, so we can be with our families next year. And until we see some relief on this pandemic, I would encourage everyone in my listening voice right now, in your listening area, to just be safe. Practice social distancing, wear your mask at all times, and then, just wash your hands, just be safe. And then if you're fortunate enough, like I am, to be with my spouse, you make that the most special Christmas in the world. Because when you're an elected official, you really don't have a lot of time to spend quality time with your loved ones. This gives us an opportunity to spend that quality time in close proximity with somebody we have to get to know again.
I think there are a lot of couples, by the way, that are doing just that because it has become a little too close for comfort for some people as well. But knowing that, can we talk a little bit about the schools? What do you see is going to be the future of the schools and the education system for the people within your district?
Well, I think this pandemic has taught us a lot. I saw education moving more towards the technological standpoint in the future, but not so much with what I'm seeing right now, where a lot of schools are forced to go online because of what's happening in our schools. So I hope this will give us, especially in Lansing, an opportunity to put more money into our schools to update their technology, update their Chromes, update everything that they're doing in the event, on the unlikely event that something like an emergency like this happens again. I see it benefiting our school systems by allowing us to upgrade our schools and prepare for it in the unlikely event something like this happens again. So I see it changing our schools altogether. I do.
With that, it's a lame duck session. Going into these last few days and last few weeks here in the month of December, can you talk a little bit about the process and what's going on with elected leaders such as yourself in Lansing about some of the bills and some of the issues that you're trying to get addressed? And we're in the middle of a pandemic on top of that.
Well, I would like to, first of all, encourage my colleagues to stay safe, okay? Unfortunately, we have not gotten to the point where we can vote remotely. So that means we have to be in the chambers, and this is not only in Lansing, but it's in Washington as well, where so many of our colleagues are contracting COVID-19. We've been very fortunate, or I could say unfortunate for us, because we did lose a representative to COVID-19, Representative Isaac Robinson. But since then, 11 other colleagues have contracted the disease. So we are very aware of what needs to be taken care of as far as servicing our constituents with issues that they care about. And one of the things I'd like to say about the 100th legislature of the House of Representatives is that all in all, we have been really working collaboratively on a lot of issues. Of course, there's been some things where we had to vote on partisan views, but the majority of what I've seen, and I'm speaking for me myself, I do come from a very diverse district, has been a lot of collaboration, okay? And that is rewarding for not only us legislators, but for our constituents as well.
You definitely have a very diverse district and trying to weigh those voices. But then also you had mentioned sometimes voting, partisan lines. What has this been like in this year been like? I feel like this is the time to put the partisan politics aside and come together for our country and for the state of Michigan and for the residents. Are you seeing that spirit? Do you think it's going to happen, or this is just politics?
Well, I will say it like this, and this is without any front-hand knowledge, because in order for you to make a positive assessment about what's going on in Washington, you actually have to be there with the day-to-day. And I'm not sure what's happening up there, okay, down there, wherever DC's at. Okay, but in Lansing, I am strongly encouraged with what I see. Yes, we have had some issues where we had to vote along partisan lines. We had to. But there are a lot of things that I'm seeing where we are voting together as a team. This is why I'm saying that the 100th legislature, as far as I'm concerned, somebody else may see it differently, has been very collaborative. The two and a half laws that I have passed. I have one right now where I'm working with 3 Republicans, an insurance bill on actuaries that has passed. Has been along bipartisan lines. The work that I'm doing in the Poverty and Homelessness Caucus is bipartisan, bicameral. So this is showing that collaboration that I hope transcends up to or down to Washington, D.C., and our national Congress people can kind of get a little bit of what's coming out of Michigan. I'm not saying it's a bed of roses, okay? I'm just saying that I am impressed with what I've seen with the teamwork between the two sides.
But with that, can we talk a little bit about the unemployment system here in the state of Michigan? Can we just fix it already?
Well, and I can speak on that because my team, Jonathan and Tori, has worked very hard. We're right now around 1,000 cases that we help the UIA system solve in District 29, and this is every community has come to us, from Orchard Lake Village all the way to Auburn Hills. Every single person has been affected by unemployment. But once again, with a quarter of your workforce out of work in Michigan, and that's what it was estimated, a quarter of the workforce was seeking unemployment. It just completely overwhelmed an antiquated system. So once again, we have an opportunity, a huge opportunity to update the system. This is a once in a century pandemic. We didn't really, if we saw it coming, we didn't adequately prepare for it. Now we have an opportunity to prepare for it. And I would like to say, from what my understanding, I think we're down about 150 UIA claims now, and most of those are the ones that require second and third steps with the unemployment system. We have done a fantastic job of servicing District 29 and making sure they get their unemployment benefits. I cannot speak about what's going to happen in Washington with if they're going to pass another HEROES PAC. I do not know. But as of right now, we're doing everything we can, and we do have a swift system in place to deal with people needing assistance with unemployment.
Representative Brenda Carter with us here on the Oakland County MegaCast. She represents Michigan's 29th district. Before we let you go, any other things going on in your district that we maybe didn't touch on that you want our listeners and our viewers to know?
Well, I really would like to express this. I have so many times about how I feel about my district as a whole, as being as diverse as it is. We recently had a town hall with all the police chiefs from Auburn Hills, Kego, Sylvan, Orchard Lake. Well, Kego, I love Kego, okay? But we had Orchard Lake Village, Auburn Hills, Pontiac or Oakland County Sheriff's Department, and Sylvan Lake. And, it was just great to see these leaders in our policing field to come together and share their views about what's important to them as chiefs of police of their community, what's important to them about their community, and to just see that cross references between the communities, which was awesome. We did this once before when we brought the superintendent from West Bloomfield, Pontiac, and Avondale in a meeting to share commonalities for our district. And what we're finding out is that we're more alike than we are different. And that was heartwarming. And I will say this to Sylvan Lake and anybody out there that's from Sylvan Lake, you probably are the cutest little city in Michigan. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, that's all I would like to say, that, we're strong, we're collaborative, we are working together, we're sharing things together. And that's what's making District 29 exceptional.
Well, and if I can just kind of take that conversation a little bit further, because I do think one of the good things we do, we have some police chiefs here in Orchard Lake, Sylvan Lake, and Keiko Harbor. They all came from the Southfield Police Department at one point in time in their careers. And for the first time, we are seeing a great collaboration amongst the chiefs for working together, which is a great thing. But I know one of the last times we spoke, there was a huge divide from the police to the public. Mm-hmm. That has kind of died down a little bit, but I would imagine that this conversation will continue once we get into the new presidential election or administration. But with that, what did you take away from that conversation that you didn't know before?
How close the police chiefs were. Okay, and how many things they shared together. And this was a community conversation. It wasn't just the police chiefs. We invited the community. We wanted to hear if there were issues still with, how the community felt about the police. We wanted the community to know that the police are engaged with things like the PAL League. I forgot to mention on this call, we had County Commissioner Angela Powell. Next time we'll have Commissioner Jinjo and Nelson on the next call, because we're going to do it in 3 months. And we also had a representative from the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office. So we could talk all the way around the board. The goal was to have the community sensitized to the roles of what our policing organizations are doing, as well as have our policing organizations sensitized to the feelings of the community. And what I got out of this was more so our community was inquisitive about, okay, so this is what you do, and this is what happens when a question was asked like, well, if we're if we're stopped by the police, how should we handle that interaction? How can we de-escalate the situation so it doesn't end up something that makes the front page news? And it was just beautiful how these questions were answered, and they were answered by each representative of each community, and they were both all collaborating on the same method of dealing with it. So I thought it was just fantastic to deal with, not only having the police involved from different communities, but having representatives or constituents from different communities able to cross-reference Orchard Lake Village, or come across to Auburn Hills, or talk to the Oakland County Sheriff's Department and get a better understanding of how our police organizations can service our communities.
Is a great conversation to have with the public as well, because you see two sides of the issue. And one of the things, our law enforcement departments across the region and across the state, they're all having a hard time with recruiting right now, but even more importantly, recruiting a diverse group to join their forces. And I think that is going to be the key to help move some of these departments forward and to continue these conversations behind the badge as well. So it's great that you were able to be a part of that.
Well, one of the things I would like to commend Deputy Gil Garrett on is he brought up exactly that point. In fact, each department had an opportunity to answer where they are in their recruitment and training needs. And that was brought out to the community, that if you want to be in law enforcement, this is what you need to do in your specific community. So that was also brought out in the town hall, as well as it was asked if it was a wish list. And this was the one where I was kind of like, okay, they're going to get me. What is the wish list? If you had a magic wand and your state representative can represent your needs in Lansing, what would it be? And it was pretty much unanimous across the board. We need more funding for training, more funding for mental health sensitivity training, a whole bunch of things. And this was coming pretty much across the board. And some startling numbers I found out is how much, I think it was like $17, $18 per person per training per year. And that's something we can do something about. And I actually jumped on that and started looking into it.
That is so great. You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Representative Brenda Carter, we appreciate your time here with us on the Oakland County MegaCast.
Oh, well, thank you, Ronnie. Thank you so much for inviting me. I truly appreciate this opportunity to communicate with the constituents in District 29.